Teriaca from the Scarlet and Game podcast. We both write for Scarlet and Game for Fansided. Frank, you also write about the Cleveland Browns. I discovered
Yeah.
this week.
Yep. Dog Pound
So
Daily.
Dog Pound Daily. So
Yep.
he's covering both the Buckeyes and on the professional level, the NFL, the new Buckeyes North, we can say, in
There you go.
Cleveland. So I gotta hand it to the Browns for at least going after some of those Buckeyes. We might get into some of that, but let's start here, Frank. How did you get involved with writing for Scarlet and Game? And what is your background with Ohio State as a fan, student, writer?
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Yeah. I wasn't a student. I went to Kent State. But I'm a lifelong Buckeye fan. Grew up with those 90s teams, Pepe Pearson and all those guys, Eddie George, Joe Germain. Those were my teams back then. And, being a Browns fan, when they left in 95, it was difficult. So I had Ohio State right there to kind of get me through that. And that's when I really became a Buckeye fan. But I started writing for Scarlet and Game 3 or 4 years ago now. And it's just a good combination. I love to write. I love Ohio State. It's a perfect little side hustle I got.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun actually. I've really enjoyed it myself and getting kind of my creativity sometimes and my thoughts down on paper. And sometimes I write it and then I go back and read it and I go, maybe do I really think that way? Like, it's kind of a good exercise for me where where when I've been podcasting I just
Yeah.
spew it out, and where when you write it and you put ink to paper, as the old saying goes. Of course, no one puts ink to paper anymore these days, but I'm old enough you did that. But
Yeah.
when you write it out, sometimes it causes you to really stop and analyze it. And so, as we've analyzed this football team this year, why don't you? Because what I love about some of the articles you're writing, and I really encourage all of you, go to scarletandgame.com, click on one of Frank's articles, and then click on his name, and it pulls up all his articles, the full page articles. And what Frank's been doing has been going through each and every single Big Ten team and previewing them for us. So while you've been working on that, engaging the other Big Ten teams, talk to us about what maybe some of the, um, I would say, worries you might have about Ohio State and looking at some of the other Big Ten teams, and maybe some of the strengths where you think if we highlight this, we can win this thing.
Yeah. Well, the strengths are obvious. This team is loaded. Ohio State is absolutely loaded this year. And if they could figure out the offensive line, if they could get that right tackle situation cleared away, they should be just fine. They should roll right through this Big Ten. Michigan, they're going to be tough. They bring back a lot of players. But, looking at the other games on the schedule, there's nobody that really pops out as somebody that's going to scare me. You look at Indiana, you look at the early portion of our schedule, it lines right up. It's going to get them ready for that Notre Dame game. Western Kentucky is on their schedule. Look out for that game. Western Kentucky's pretty solid. They got a quarterback named Austin Reed, threw for over 4,500 yards last year. He's excellent. I'm shocked that he didn't go to a major program. He could be starting at a Power 5 school right now. And then other than that, you go to, Michigan State. I previewed them today. Nobody scares me with them. And you look up and down the schedule, it's just, they should roll right through it.
What about Wisconsin?
Wisconsin's the tough one. At Wisconsin, Camp Randall, Luke Fickell's going to be, you guys know, he's going to be upset. The last time he actually had a shot against Ohio State, he laid an egg in 2019 with Cincinnati. That team brings in Tanner Mordecai, a quarterback from SMU. He's another player who was very solid last year. He's going to bring in they also brought in Phil Longo from North Carolina to run that offense, and he's going to spread things around. He coached North Carolina for 4 seasons as the offensive coordinator, top 10 offense every year. He's going to bring that to Wisconsin. Fickell's going to have that defense going. Braylon Allen's back at running back. the happiest man on that team is Braylon Allen. He's going to have rushing lanes again with them throwing the ball around a little bit, and they're going to be a challenge. If they make that a night game, I don't think they decided on a time yet for that one. If that's a night game at Camp Randall, you guys know how that place rocks, and it's going to be scary. That's the one game on the schedule that I have circled that could be a little bit of a hiccup. Penn State too. I mean, they're good, but that game's going to be in Columbus. But yeah, Wisconsin's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I actually feel the exact same way as I've been kind of working through my predictions. It's getting to the where what I have not circled that as a W yet because I'm
Yeah,
just like this one's gonna be
especially if that's a night game. I mean, you guys, what was it, 2016? We went into overtime with them at Camp Randall. I mean, it's a scary place to play, and Ohio State's tripped up there a couple times.
yeah. Uh-oh. I didn't know this about Ryan Wickerham. He's a Browns fan too.
Oh,
That ex-
Ryan, my dog.
that explains a lot right there. Oh, now we have one who's mad that we're going to talk about something else other than Ohio State. Robert Allen. I thought this was an Ohio State podcast. We only talk about winners. Oh, Larry Daniels says, "Welcome, Frank." He has a question for you. What might a favorite article you've written covering Ohio State or Cleveland? Great question, Larry.
Yeah. So, I'm going to point one out that you wrote, Eric. You wrote something about Archie Griffin deserving a statue. And I think that, what Buckeye fan doesn't agree with that, One of my favorite art, I wrote one in 2019 and I kind of rewrote it again 3 or 4 months ago because it hasn't happened yet. Jim Tressel needs to get honored. I mean, what are we waiting for? I mean, thank God he's in good health right now and everything, but who knows what tomorrow brings? Let's get this guy on the C deck in the Ring of Honor, right next to Paul Brown, right next to Woody. He deserves to be there. Let's do it sooner rather than later. We had the perfect opportunity against Youngstown State to get it done.
Yeah.
They dropped the ball.
And I'll go one better than that with you. That game against Youngstown State, he needs to dot the I.
That too. That'd be awesome.
It's Earl Bruce was the last coach to get that honor. And he got that honor right before he passed. I don't know of a better game for Jim Tressel to be honored than against Youngstown State. It's perfect.
Obviously, him and Gene Smith have some issues from what happened back then. Let's get over it, guys. Come on, it's time.
Yeah, it's like Marcus Freeman and Chris.
No, totally different. Tressel fell on his sword and protect Gene Smith and the program.
Darn right.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement, Chris. Chris, you got a question for our guest tonight?
Well, yeah. First of all, is that a Jim Brown autographed football?
How you spotted that, huh? You spotted that.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a second. I got one more here. It's that's some dirt from Municipal Stadium.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
No, you two memorabilia guys are geeking out right now on Cleveland sports.
Okay, so I got to ask, Frank, the quarterback situation. What is your take on the quarterback situation as it stands right now? Eric and I have both gone on record saying, we believe Kyle McCord's the guy, but
yeah,
is he?
I think so. I mean, all the signs point to that. Devin Brown, we just, he hurt his finger in spring. We don't know what he is. He could run around a little bit from what we saw. He's got a big arm. We saw that in Peach Bowl practices, the little couple videos we saw. But Kyle McCord, all indications are that he's going to be the man. He's had out, 2 years at Ohio State, plus another 2 years he was fully committed to Ryan Day. He knows the playbook. He's ready to roll. He just has to do it now.
So, speaking of quarterback play, right? This is the first, and I think it might have been Ryan that wrote it. Is it time that we get a quarterback that runs again? Can you see a scenario? Hear me out. Can you see a scenario where the offensive line is so bad that Devin Brown is actually the guy because he is just more fleet of foot and can do more with his legs? Does that scenario exist at all in your mind?
Not
Or
with
is it
Ryan Day.
no, not with Ryan
Not
Day?
with Ryan Day. You know, I don't know if he's going to call the plays. I don't think we know that yet. But his offense, you got to throw the ball down the field. And Kyle McCord, I think, gives you the best opportunity to do that. And we don't, the little that I saw of his high school video, Kyle McCord's, the guy could run too. You know, it's not like he's a statue. I think he's a little bit more than CJ Stroud. I think he could run the ball. So I think
I hope
that's
so.
being blown a little out of proportion. You know, Devin Brown, the scrambler, McCord, the thrower,
Yeah.
you know, so.
And you're
Hey,
right.
Frank,
We don't really know because we didn't see
Yeah.
it in the spring games. Only kind of maybe
That
the
spring game was
perception.
awful. Oh, it's tough
was
to
bad.
watch.
It was bad. Yes, Chris.
so Frank, I got to ask your take on another question that Eric and I have gone round about. You mentioned Ryan Day. Is Ryan Day on at least the warm seat right now,
Yeah, he's
following
warm,
the 2
right?
losses to Michigan?
I think he's warm. It's not the hot seat yet. Another loss, he'll be on the hot seat. What's he got? He's 45 wins and 6
Yeah,
losses or something like that. Like,
but given the
geez.
fact that he really doesn't have the best track record in the big games,
No,
that
but
that seems to be where he struggles the most, is in the big games.
Clemson, I think he's proven on the national stage he could play with everybody. That Clemson game just sticks out. That's obviously his best game as a play caller, as a head coach. Georgia, I don't know. We're that close away
A
from a
lot went
national
wrong with
title, you
Georgia. Yeah,
know.
that
I
that I
mean,
can't put that all on him, except for the fact that I feel he got conservative at the end.
and that's been his MO, right? Like he
Yeah,
turtles up a little bit at the end.
yeah.
I don't know. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's a good play caller. Eric, I know he's growing into the job, right? That's
Exactly.
what you
Yeah.
and I don't know if you do that exactly at Ohio State, but I think Urban signed off on him and Gene went with it, and here we are. I think this should be peak Ryan Day though right now. I think all the learning should be out of his system, and I think this should be peak Ryan Day that we're going to see this year and in the couple of years to come.
This is 2 years. Well, this will be 2 years removed from all of Urban guys gone too.
Yeah.
So these are all Ryan Day recruits. I will give Ryan Day credit for. I don't think he waits long when he knows something's wrong. He pulled the trigger pretty quick on Kerry Combs, and we were all big Kerry Combs fans
Yeah, me
as
too.
a defensive backs coach, right? And it obviously
Yeah.
was not going to work out as a DC, and he didn't wait around for that. I think most of the time, what we've seen Ryan Day do, is he's learned from mistakes rather quickly. Let's take Clemson for account. Lost that tough one in the playoffs, really shouldn't have, but then comes back the very next year and has a phenomenal game plan, right? I think if we would have played Alabama, the same thing would have happened. I think he would have had a phenomenal game plan. Had Georgia, like you guys said, on the ropes for 3 quarters, and then some unbelievable bad things happen, slips and falls and injuries and you name it. I
Cheap
can't
shots that
put
weren't called.
I can't put that all on him. But if he loses 3 times to Jim Harbaugh, I'm questioning my thought process here with him. And all that time of learning, it's like you said, now it's put up or shut up time, right? Like
Yeah.
you've been studying for the last 4 years, and you've been doing a great job. You know the answers for the most part. You've got stubbed a few times. Now it's test time. Can you go into Ann Arbor and beat him with players that are equal or maybe even
Yeah.
slightly better in the recruiting numbers, but they're recruiting numbers, right? Can you do that? Can you put a game plan together to beat him? You did it when you were an OC. Can you do it as a head coach? That's the test to me, Frank. I don't know, man.
Absolutely. And then I think one of his biggest negatives as a head coach is his coaching hires. Obviously, Kerry Combs didn't work out. That initial defensive staff is pretty much all gone, right? Except for Larry Johnson. I don't know if Parker Fleming is a special teams coach. I finally heard his name pop up on the recruiting trail with Justin Scott last week. That's the first time I heard of, Parker Fleming making a contribution on the recruiting front since he's been hired. Corey Dennis, Keenan Bailey, these are all young guys. We just don't know yet about them. We don't know about Brian Hartline as an offensive coordinator. If he's going to call plays, we haven't seen it yet. I think that's the biggest question mark on him is how he put the staff together. Jim Knowles, I mean, he got torched against Michigan last year. He got torched in the second half in the fourth quarter against Georgia last year. How is he going to do? How is he going to handle the pressure of having to go up against Michigan 2 years in a row after he gave up 40-something points last year to them? I think that's one of Ryan Day's biggest question marks right now is how he put the staff together.
Chris and I are both pretty high on the defense this year. Let's flip over to the defensive side, although we're still getting questions about quarterbacks in the chat. But let's talk about defense. Let's talk about Jim Knowles. Year number 2. Track record says there's a pretty big jump from year 1 to year 2. Did it at Duke, did it at Oklahoma State. Here he is at Ohio State. Ohio State saw some improvement defensively. Now it wasn't what we all were hoping, would win a national championship. And again, for 3 quarters, it was good enough. And then the fourth quarter fell apart. But can this defense win a national championship? Can the scheme do it? Can the players do it? What does Frank say?
Did Jim Knowles learn from his mistakes last year? Is he going to put 8-9 guys in the box against Michigan? And, I think that's the biggest question mark. I think, on paper, they have the talent. Are they going to play Sonny Styles? Are they going to play CJ Hicks? I think Jim Knowles came out and said this spring that he's going to rotate more guys into his lineup. He didn't like doing that at Duke. He didn't like doing that at Oklahoma State, mostly because he had 2- and 3-star prospects behind his starters who he could not trust. There's a little bit more talent on this team. Let's get some of these younger, talented players on the field. Let's let them make plays. I think he's going to let that happen this year, and I think we're going to see a vastly improved defense this year. Does that equate to a national title defense? I'm not sure. Do we have enough pass rush to get that done? JTT and Jack Sawyer are going to have to show up this year. They're going to have to prove that they're 5-star talents. If the two of them do that, then I think this defense should be pretty elite.
Yeah, I agree with you. Chris, you got a question before we let you talk about the team from the mistake by the lake?
Stop being bitter, Eric. It's okay.
Hey, man, my team was in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. So
How'd they do?
Yeah, they almost won it. It's just about like the last time they almost won it.
Yeah.
At least we've been there.
So, yeah, but doesn't do any good if you don't bring the trophy. Yeah, we're just gonna stop this right now, Eric. Because
hey, we dominated the 50s, right?
Okay, Michigan fan. Jeez.
Well, the other thing is we may not have gotten to the Super Bowl the last few years, but until this last year, we dominated Cincinnati for a pretty good run.
Yeah.
You also
Joe Burrow doesn't have a good record against us.
Yeah,
huh?
You also got a quarterback that dominates the massage room.
Oh, wow. So I got to ask you, Frank. One of the big things, obviously, on Ohio State is that talent in the wide receiver room. Your take? I mean, obviously, the sexy pick is Marvin Harrison Jr. Who leads this team in receiving this year?
Tough question. God, I mean, my head wants to say Marvin, but my heart is like, I think Emeka might do it. I mean, he came pretty close to doing it last year.
Yeah.
But Marvin's going to get double and triple teamed, and I think Emeka's going to be open this year a little bit more. Are they going to play him in the slot? I think they should. I think that's his best position. And if he does, he could feast like what JSN did a couple of years ago.
And I was going to say, do you see any scenario where we could potentially have 3 guys touching 1,000 yards in the receiving room again?
Julian?
Could a healthy Julian Fleming get in that mix?
Is he going to be healthy enough to to do it. The talent's there. He's mega talented.
Well, I mean, he
Um,
showed that last year. I mean, what,
yeah,
522 yards, 47 catches
right,
in an injury, riddled season. So
right. And then are they going to want to work in these young guys? Carnell Tate and Noah Rogers are really turning some heads this spring. So does that limit the touches? Got Kate Stover to give the ball to. I don't know if you're going to get 3, but Mecca and Marvin should put up some pretty big numbers this year.
yeah, I know we came awful close with JSN, Olave, and Wilson. I think it was Olave who was
Olave
just
didn't.
short.
Yeah.
It was because of a couple games of injury. But yeah.
All right, we got a couple fan submitted questions here, listener submitted questions. Robert Allen says, running back depth chart. What do you got there, Frank, for your running back depth chart there? Because that's deep.
Yeah,
that is a deep room.
Very deep, very deep. So Travion's number 1. I mean, he's healthy. He's the lead back, and he's the most talented player in that room. And Mayan's number 2. He's proven that. Beyond that, it's how Tony Alford is. If you had a good week of practice, you're probably going to get that 3rd spot. So I'm really interested this year in seeing how Evan Pryor looks in fall camp. I think he was turning some heads last year before the knee injury. And he's another player. They don't like throwing the ball a lot to the running backs, but I think Evan Pryor could exploit some things if they use him in that role. So I'd like to see him get some touches, but Chip train him. 3rd and 1, I'll give him the ball, And Dallin Hayden, I think he's got to be 5th right now, but boy, it's a tough place to put him. He did a lot last year as a true freshman.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second, man. Dallin Hayden is your 5th running back.
A guy who had nearly 600 yards rushing last year. He's your
Not quite
6th
that
running.
much, was it?
Wasn't it? It was up over 5, wasn't it? Wasn't it like 522?
Was it that much?
I thought it was something to that effect.
I could be totally wrong about. I thought he had a couple good games, but not anything like that.
Well, now while you guys are checking that, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, you go look that up, and then I'm gonna have Donald Hoffer's question here for Frank. Who do you think will be the unexpected breakout star on defense this year?
Jeez, I hope it's Sonny Styles. That kid needs to play. He needs to be on the field. He's not unexpected, though. I'll go Jordan Hancock. I think he's going to win that starting cornerback spot opposite of Denzel Burke. Another guy, super talented. He just has to stay healthy. The coaching staff loves the kid. They were looking to get him on the field last year. It just didn't work out due to injury and, trying to work him back in after not playing for 8 weeks. But I think if he's healthy in fall camp, he's going to be the starting cornerback against Indiana. And I would expect him to do some good things.
All right, Chris looks like he's still looking up that.
111 carries for 553 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a 5 yards per carry average. And that's your 5th guy.
Who wanted him? Was it the rumor that Tennessee was going after him?
Tennessee was after him hard, and he ended up staying.
How about that?
I did not realize he had that many yards. That snuck up on me, Chris. Good on you, man. Wow. Okay. Good on you. All right. We got a few minutes left. Let me ask one more Buckeye question before I let you guys talk about the Brownies. Ryan Day leaves for the New England job after the season. You're the new athletic director at Ohio State, Frank. Who's the first phone call you make to and why?
Mike Vrabel, no hesitation. I think would be a home run here. And I think he's kind of got that Jim Harbaugh about him. I don't think he's going to last at one place for too many years. I think he'll start rubbing people the wrong way. I think you're starting to see that a little bit in Tennessee. There were some problems with the GM there. He won the power battle, but how long is he going to stay there? Recruiting, I don't think he was too long on it when he was at Ohio State in 2012 and 2013. But, a chance to be the head coach of his alma mater, I think he'd jump at this in a heartbeat, and I think he'd be a home run. I think he'd be an absolute home run.
you're the first person I've talked to that says that you think he would jump at the job.
I think you would.
I That's interesting. That's something maybe we should dive into.
And he's
Or
what,
maybe
year
you
6 right now, I think, in Tennessee.
Yeah, something like that. But honestly, I've tried to take my Ohio State blinders off at this question. What is the best head coaching job in America? NFL, college? What's the best job? I think it might be Ohio State. I mean, you win. Ohio State recruits itself. You have the security as long as you could beat Michigan. Jim Tressel had all the security in the world. Urban Meyer had all the security in the world until some other stuff came about for both of them. I think Ohio State might be the best job in football. And
people would say, I know a lot of people would say Alabama, but think about this. Would you want to be the guy to follow Nick Saban?
No. I don't. I think when Nick Saban leaves, you're going to see a dip in that program.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as sustainable as Ohio State is.
I'll go one further. I think you're going to see a dip in the program before he leaves.
You might be seeing one this year. Yeah.
I think it started 2 years ago, and I think we're seeing it progress.
Their quarterback situation's a mess this year.
I think Georgia is taking the reins of the SEC.
I agree.
I really do. Recruiting rankings tell me they have.
Yeah.
Now there's still some clout there. There's still some machismo coming from Tabasco City or whatever they play at. But
their recruiting heats up late. But you're right. You're right though. I mean, Georgia's taken the steam out of that conference.
They really have. All right, Chris. Ask the man a Cleveland question. Go ahead.
All right, I got to know what your thoughts are on the team this year. Now, myself, people were calling me nuts. I think if we can get Deshaun anywhere near what he was before the 2-year layoff, they can contend for a wild card spot.
Oh, you're such a Cleveland fan.
That's not crazy. I think if you get adequate quarterback play, this team is solid enough.
I mean, they have arguably the best running back in the league.
They do. I think Nick Chubb is the best running back. Yeah. And, do you follow the Guardians and Indians?
Oh, yeah.
Dolan, enjoy Frankie Lindor, right? I'm going to say the same thing about Nick Chubb. Enjoy him this year because I don't know if he's going to be here next year with the way this front office is running things. But I think the team around Deshaun is pretty solid. I think they got some good receivers. I think they got a good tight end room. Their offensive line is very solid as long as Jed Wills gets his act together this year.
Stops holding everybody.
Right. He drove me up a wall last year, as I'm sure he did for you.
Defensively, I like the potential of what they got on defense. They got a lot of
athletes. They got a lot of athletes on defense, and their secondary's pretty good. I think the new coordinator is going to make a big difference.
How many Ohio State guys do you think make this roster?
I don't think Togiai does. I think he's going to get cut pretty easily. Then you got the Whippler. He's going to make the roster. DeJuan Jones is going to make the roster. Denzel Ward, he's going to make it. So that's 3. Is there anyone I'm missing?
You think Tommy can stick around?
I don't think so.
I think he'll get cut.
I'm shocked he hasn't already. I think he's only stuck around because this front office likes to keep their own draft picks a little longer than they should. If for whatever reason it's just not working out with Tommy, and I thought he was in the 4th round. I thought he's going to be a steal, plugging up the middle for the Browns, but he can't see the field. He's not doing well in practice apparently.
Yeah.
All right, enough Browns talk.
What do you think their record will be versus the Bungles this year?
1-1. 1-1. I think this Browns team can win 9 or 10 games. I think as long as Deshaun Watson's adequate, which why shouldn't he be? I think he should be adequate. I think he should be an average quarterback.
Yeah, I think this is a division that you could actually see every team split their divisional games.
Absolutely. Pittsburgh's not a slouch. I mean, their quarterback situations.
They're no slouch. You've got the Bengals are obviously the cream right now.
I'll tell you what, too.
Lamar and the Ravens are awful tough.
My early prediction is Baltimore to win the division. I like what they've done this offseason. I think getting
I don't know how
Lamar
good of a
happy
I don't know.
is
Bringing in
one thing.
OBJ might not be the best thing.
For $15 million, that was a joke, but
Well, yeah, but is he a locker room cancer? That's the question.
yeah, he could be. But I think getting Lamar happy and under contract was big for that organization, and I like their defense a lot. I think they could win 11 games and maybe steal this division from Cincinnati. Sorry.
All right, Frank. No more. Don't be stealing Chris from me and doing a Browns podcast. My gosh, you two
I
over
do not.
there.
My cousin might slap me around.
All right, Frank. My famous last question, my man. What does it mean to Frank to be a Buckeye?
Oh man, it's so cool. It's so cool going to Ohio Stadium on a game day and being amongst the fans. It's another, I said about the head coaching job. Oh, I think it might be the best in America. It's a unique fandom being an Ohio State football fan. We're the only major program in the state, right? And so, me being up in Cleveland and somebody from Toledo and somebody from Cincinnati, we could all be watching the same game, rooting for the same team. It connects the entire state together. And I think that there's just something poetic about that. On Sundays, we're going to be cheering for different teams, but on Saturdays, we're all kind of united as one. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I went back and listened to the interview, Chris, you and I had after the spring game with Big Nut, John Peters. And I loved his description of how when you put a handful of Buckeyes in your hand and you look at them, they're all different sizes, different colors, different shapes. But when they're inside the horseshoe, 105,000 strong, they're all one.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty cool.
I loved that description of his explanation of Buckeye Nation. And yeah, I think Frank, you hit the nail on the head there. That it's special. Being a part of this fan base is special. Yeah, there's some crazy guys and some Twitter, trolls and everything else.
Every fan base has it.
Just like them all. Yeah, there's more up there in Ann Arbor than any place else. But
well, they're all nuts.
I've seen it firsthand. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Eric, but you'll get some messages from them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure
We're all Buckeyes, but they're the nuts. Make no mistake about it.
I'm sure my most recent article there for Saturday Blitz is going to ruffle their feathers, and I did it on purpose. What can I say? It's just in me there. But all right, Larry Daniels said it best. He says, "Thanks, Frank, Eric, and Chris. Another great show. Thank you, Larry, for chiming in, being a part. Frank, we're going to definitely have you back during the season, man. If you're able to come in on a Sunday night and be a part of our show with us on Sunday nights, we always do a post game show the day after." And a review show, and we hand out Buckeye leaves, talk about the MVPs of the game, and then we're gonna have callers actually call in for the second part of the show and give them a voice too, and or ask questions or let them vent whatever they need. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. We'd love to have you be a part of that this season if you're up to it, Frank.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Eric and Chris. It was a lot of fun tonight.
Excellent.
Please
like, share, subscribe. You guys know the deal. That really does help grow the channel. We're inching our way slowly to that 500 mark that we wanted, so we can hand somebody a nice little gift card there to Amazon for $50 as soon as we hit that 500 mark. We're getting there a little bit at a time. So please share that and let everybody know that this is the place to come on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. We're going to talk Buckeyes. And you never know. You might even get 2 minutes of Browns talk, I guess. With Chris in the house, you're gonna get a little bit of that Cleveland talk there. All right, guys. As always, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH and sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. And until next time, OH.
I owe.
I owe.